So in this video, we're going to talk about why the narcissist or the cluster B personality in general, why they are the way that they are. From scientific explanations to the breakdown of trauma and emotionality in children. How does it change them? Sorry for all the movement there. So what is the cause of a cluster B? And under the cluster B umbrella, we have psychopathy. This is the only one that you're actually born with. We have sociopathy, antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder. Let me start by saying I'm not making any excuses for these people. When you're in the very early stages of your healing, you get angry, you want justice, and you get angry at anybody that says there's a reason they're like that. You take it as they're trying to make an excuse to these people, or that maybe your response is adding to it. Okay, those two things you won't be ready to hear until the end of your healing. I mean, it's a fact. But the cause of cluster B personality disorders minus psychopathy is childhood trauma. Unresolved childhood trauma. Studies have been done that childhood trauma, unresolved trauma, needs not being met, attachment issues can permanently alter one's brain. Two things can occur. There's a link between cluster B personality disorders, childhood trauma, and addiction, for example. When you are a victim of childhood abuse and trauma, it can actually change your brain structure. There's a certain part of your brain called the amygdala that can actually shrink due to trauma. People that are victims of childhood abuse can have difficulty relating to others, empathy, difficulty regulating their emotions, and because of the lack of dopamine, can become addicted to substances to help create more dopamine in their brain because they're constantly feeling depressed. Well, what do all of these things have in common? They're all exhibited by cluster Bs very frequently. The narcissist and the sociopath, antisocial personality disorder, well, they're known for not being able to relate to other people, lack of empathy. They were so damaged as children that they can no longer relate to other people in the same way that you or I can. They can no longer understand what human emotion is. So then they have to mimic it. They behave almost like robots as far as not being able to exhibit genuine emotion and trying to get their needs met any way they can. Because they don't release dopamine the same way that we do too, they're sensation seeking. And the way that they like to get their needs met is to get a rise of emotion out of other people. Because they can't experience it, they're addicted to being able to control the emotions of other people. But I guess what I'm getting at in this video is they were traumatized as children, and I'm not saying let your guard down. I'm not saying feel sorry for them. Feeling sorry for somebody and having compassion for them are two different things, because compassion means you also have boundaries. You can have compassion and still have healthy boundaries. Feeling sorry for someone will get you walked all over. But I am at a safe point in my life where I have boundaries at this point, and people can't take advantage of me. They can't manipulate me. So I'm able to have compassion for them. I am able to understand them and I'm able to adjust my behavior, whereas they don't get triggered and I don't get triggered. I'm able to have boundaries and I'm actually able to do things and work with these people now without having my day ruined, without being manipulated. It's a wonderful thing once you can get there. But in order to get there, though, to have compassion for them and boundaries, you're going to have to work on yourself first. I'm not saying you're in the wrong. I'm not saying you deserved what happened to you, but you can't get out of relationship with these people in any capacity without having damage. It is what it is. You're going to have to work on healing yourself and putting those barriers back up. Well, boundaries, barriers isn't the right word, but they are wounded children that literally don't know a way out. They're hopelessly lost. In their minds, it's constant chaos. It's chaos. It's a constant storm. And as unhappy as they make us, as miserable, the amount of trauma and pain that they cause us, they're actually in more pain. And people, they'll say to that, well, they deserve their pain. Look at all that they've caused me. But imagine living like that every day. When we get away from them, we can feel happy. We can feel joy. We can feel meaning, bonds, relationship, trust, love. They cannot experience that. Imagine a life like that. And I would be the last person to make excuses for them or suggest you tear your boundaries down for them, because they have cost me everything. If any of you know about parental alienation, when you've had to separate from a narcissist, go to family court with one, then you'll know the kind of pain, the kind of unimaginable pain that people like that have caused me. The only thing worse than being alienated from your child that's alive and well and healthy is actually having your child die. There's nothing worse on this planet. And it's like grieving and mourning every single day. You never get closure. So I'm not telling you this because I feel sorry for them or because I want you to feel sorry for them. No, they can be monsters. They can be monsters. Absolute, like the devil, like terrorists. They can be the most ugly people on the planet, but there is a reason why they do this stuff. And some of them are more, a hopeless situation than others. I would say that every other narcissist or cluster B in my life, I had a little bit of hope for. But the one that I'm talking about is the only one that I don't have hope for, because it's just a bottomless pit of ugliness. I've never met a person more evil and more ugly in my life. But you need to understand, as part of your healing journey, why they are like that, why they tick. What is the reason for it? Your life will become more peaceful. You're not doing it to understand them. They don't care to be understood. You're understanding them to bring your life peace, because you'll run into them the rest of your life. You will run into them. And as much healing as you've done, it's almost as if they can sense the light in you. They can sense that light, and they'll gravitate to you. And unfortunately, we don't have as much practice. Even if we've been through therapy, we don't have as much practice as the normal person with healthy boundaries. We were never allowed to have boundaries as children. We weren't allowed to say, no, that doesn't make me uncomfortable. That doesn't make me comfortable. I don't want to do that. So every boundary that we've learned to put up is new. We're practicing it just now as adults. So we're going to bump into these people and we're going to know what they are. I had one recently at my last job, a narcissist, a boss, and I loved everyone else there. I loved everyone else there. They were amazing. They were wonderful. They were the most beautiful people I had ever met. But that one old, ugly, bitter narcissist made my job hell. I had extreme anxiety. I've never had that at a job before. Never. This person was a micromanager, just sick, just insecure. Everybody else there was great, but this one person just micromanaged, and she would change the rules. And this sounds paranoid, but I'm telling you, after a lifetime of decoding these people. And again, I've never had this at any other work environment, and I've been legally able to work for 15 years. Changing the rules just for me. I had a different set of rules than every other person there, and they would change daily. I'm an early childhood educator, and for early childhood, you need structure, 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 right, for children? Because even getting a crowd of adults, if you change the rules on them every single day, they're going to become frustrated and emotional and confused, right? Even adults. So imagine young children forcing me to change my routine several times in a week. And after insults, ridicule, change of rules, micromanaging, I was like, no, I'm done. I know what you are. Luckily, by this point, I had already been through therapy. So I knew how to handle my emotions and not get triggered, and check the facts and understand what she was. And I guess, too, I mean, a boss can still make you miserable, but it's not as hurtful as a parent or a child or a spouse that's that way. But I don't know. I guess, you're going to run into these people the rest of your life. And if you have the skills to handle them, because it doesn't end with, you might find the perfect spouse, but what if they have a narcissistic family member? What if your child, God forbid, becomes a narcissist or marries one? I, for example, will bring my children up to have critical thinking skills, to have boundaries. They're allowed to have boundaries in my home. They're allowed to tell me that something makes them uncomfortable. They won't get spanked for that. They won't get yelled at for that. They're allowed to be their own people. Now, they will have respect, and they will obey me, but they don't get screamed at in my home. That's not okay in my home. And, we practice empathy. We go and we volunteer, different places. But I can't control what happens at either one of my ex's homes. I can't. Maybe they're not allowed to be themselves over there. I will do my best, but I can't prevent that generational cycle. I can stop it in myself, but because I had children with cluster B individuals, it's up to my children now to stop that cycle. I wish I could have. I wanted to. I stopped it with me, but, my children will unfortunately have to go through that journey as well. But yeah, I'm sorry. Sometimes I kind of go on a little bunny trail, a little bit of, branch off a little bit and get sidetracked. But I think my next videos will discuss the link between childhood trauma and autoimmune disorders and ADHD. I have seen an interesting connection between autoimmune disorders and ADHD and childhood trauma. I don't know if there's definitely a connection there, but I think that I would like you guys to weigh in on whether or not you have seen a connection there. Well, let me know.